Hello, everyone, and welcome to the July 29th, 2015 episode of Balls Deep Sports Talk with your host, Scotty Ball. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you're listening on WNLM Radio, as you have for, this would make it 24 weeks now that we have been broadcasting on WNLMradio.com. Thanks to everyone there for making the show happen, and thanks to the listeners for making this show continue to happen. Now, as we did last week, we do have some exciting, relatively new show news to share with everyone, but we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, let me give you a little overview of what's going to be talked about here on the show this week, sports-wise, as we are a sports talk show after all. And we got a lot to talk about, but we will be trying to keep the show closer to a 90-minute episode this week, unlike the 2-hour episode of last week. But I will try to give you a little bit more than the 1-hour episode from a few weeks ago. However, I am semi-busy here. As I said, it is the 29th of July. Where has the summer gone? Boy, if you have kids, I believe you would definitely know where I'm coming from. It just seems like the time flies here in the summer, and we've only got 1 month of it left, so everybody's to-do lists are getting extra busy, as is my own. But I am dedicated and committed, as you know, to bringing you your sports talk every Wednesday night here on WNLMradio.com and our new formats, which I'll get to in just a moment, like I said. But what we're going to be talking on the show tonight, we've got a lot of football to discuss because training camps have started and it is officially the beginning of the 2015-2016 NFL season. So we have plenty of stuff to talk about there, whether it be how good the Vikes are going to be, we'll go into that, whether it be what's going on with Tom Brady and the life that has been re-injected into the Deflategate story via Roger Goodell's appeal decision the other day, which we will be talking about in a little more detail, other player and team news as well. We'll be discussing Major League Baseball, where everyone is at in the current standings. Maybe we'll get into a little bit of who some of the MVP and Cy Young candidates at this point are. We will mostly be discussing the trade deadline and the activity that is and has been taking place recently as a result of that. We will also be discussing plenty of WWE news. Hulk Hogan has been in the news. You will get my take on that. We've also got the upcoming SummerSlam pay-per-view. John Cena's broken nose on Monday Night Raw is something we will be discussing as well. And we've also got Lucha Underground to talk about with their giant first ever Ultima Lucha pay-per-view. Well, not pay-per-view, but special event type of thingy. In WWE equivalents, it would be a pay-per-view spread out over 2 weeks, and it's on it's on US, it's on the same time Raw is. Like, that would kind of be the equivalent. But it's going to be amazing, so we'll be previewing that, because if you're a wrestling fan and you're not watching Lucha Underground, you are missing out beyond anything you can comprehend. And you just need to not miss out anymore and check it out and take my word at it. We will also be discussing this upcoming Saturday's UFC 190, where the main event will be Rowdy Ronda Rousey, my girl, my woman, versus Beth Carrera. And it's going to be incredible. Well, you'll get my take on that as well. Also be trying to touch on the WNBA standings. Hopefully, I know I said that last week and didn't get to, but I'm going to try and make it up this week. There were a tiny bit of NHL news to discuss as well, and a little bit of global, international Gold Cup Fallout soccer news that is somewhat juicy. All right. So that's a general overview of what we've got coming up on the show, what we've got planned for you this evening. Again, thanks for tuning in. And if you're not listening via WNLMradio.com, which, like I said, the show has been brought to you for 24 consecutive weeks now, maybe you are enjoying the show on the free Spreaker app. We just recently got the show and several other shows on the WNLM radio station roster on the Spreaker app, and it is an awesome experience for internet radio listeners, podcast listeners, just turning your mobile device of any kind into what you enjoy the show and other shows on. It's like I said, it's free and it's extremely easy, and all you have to do is download the free Spreaker app and then search Balls Deep Sports Talk, and you will have access to our entire library archive of all 24 shows now that we've done at your fingertips to listen to whenever you like. And if you are on there, please make sure to heart the shows, as I believe we are very fastly approaching, and we've only been on there about a week and a half, like I said. I believe we are very fastly approaching enough popularity, listens, and hearts to be coming to you on iHeartRadio here in the very near future. So I would greatly appreciate if you would take advantage of the show on the Spreaker app. I like the way that sounds. Yes, take advantage of the show on the Spreaker app, the free Spreaker app, and make sure to heart it while you're there so that we can come to you in the future, in the very near future, on iHeartRadio. And you can also find the show now on the free TuneIn app as well, which I believe we've been on there for quite a while, but I always forget to promote it. And we are also back up on SoundCloud as well, and the show is also on YouTube now as well. So many places that you can access your Balls Deep sports talk whenever you like, at your convenience, on whatever mobile internet device you choose. So there's your show news for you, and let's get into some actual sports talk. Alright, so as my regular Balls Deep goers are well aware, we start the official opening segment to every show here on Balls Deep Sports Talk is a segment that we like to call Balls on Fire. What has got Scotty Ball the most fired up, the most heated up, whether it be positive, negative, what have you. Now, there were several recent events, or what have yous, that I could have chose to overtake my initial choice, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put those in other places in the show. Tom Brady's balls being back in the news, for example. I was not going to devote another Balls on Fire segment solely to talking about Tom Brady's balls. So, oh yes, and there also the Hulk Hogan news, but I felt that was more appropriate for a different segment, although that had me fired up in several different ways, but we'll get to that later. But anyway, what we are going to start this week's show on is the beginning of the NFL season. It is upon us. It is here. Training camps have begun. I know for my and maybe your Minnesota Vikings, it began on Sunday, so they have been at it for a couple days now, and it's awesome. It's finally here. And if you're like me, football season almost kind of feels like it never ends, with the draft process and the free agent process and everything else that goes on, the OTAs earlier in June and what have you, things like that. And the NFL does a phenomenal job, and we as a society do it, go along with it as well, of making it a year-round thing, that we will always find something to talk about or be interested in, or, can have a conversation and keep football, relevant and cared about, not forgotten like some other sports it happens to a little bit in their off seasons. Not quite as much now, in any of them as it used to be with all the social media and television and things like that. But if you are a football fan, now is the time for you to be excited and to be happy because your team has just as good a chance right now as anybody else's. There are very few injuries for the most part. Everybody's on the same level playing field for the most part. And it just, it's the preseason. It's training camp. That's, like I said, that's when everybody is optimistic and hopeful. And even if even if you don't look that great in the preseason, you can still just go, well, those didn't count, and we'll get it figured out or whatever. So it's a time of hope. But if you want to understand and have realistic expectations as a fan, or if you're like me and you just want to know more and you just can't get enough of the X's and O's and stuff of football, then now is the time to be familiarizing yourself with players and teams and coaching staffs and different changeovers that happened from last season to this season. And so that's what we're going to try and do here a little bit on this week's episode. And of course, we will be talking football every episode now. So that's awesome because I started the show a couple weeks after the Super Bowl. So, I've just been scratching and clawing for football to talk about since I've been doing the show. So I am super happy and excited that it's here. But like I said, we are going to start mostly with my Minnesota Vikings. We'll go a little bit around the league, and we will get to Mr. Tom Brady's balls and the current situation that those have gotten everyone worked up about as well. So, if you are unfortunate enough to be as I am and bleed purple and gold and be a diehard Vikings fan all your life, no matter what, you have reason to be extra optimistic this year. Adrian Peterson is back. Everything seems to be squared away and put in the past when it comes to his future as a player wearing a Minnesota Vikings uniform. He of course appears to be in phenomenal shape, is reported to be winning all of the conditioning drills every day from day one at training camp, which is no shock should be to anybody. And then you pair that with the up-and-coming, hopefully, emerging second-year quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. Now, I have heard the phrase sophomore slump come up just because he's a sophomore. There is in my opinion, there is no reason to believe that outside of injuries, significant injuries to either him or key pieces on this offense, such as the offensive line or the receiving core or Adrian Peterson, there's no reason to believe that he should have a sophomore slump and regress. He did not go into last year as the starting quarterback, so he wasn't getting first team reps in training camp. This is his first year of going into an NFL season as the starting quarterback, getting all the first team reps. And that's going to be huge for his development. And we saw how quickly he learned on the fly last year. So to have all this time and training and preparation that he's never had before on this level, paired with, relatively good health across the board on the offensive side, there is no reason to believe that he should have a sophomore slump. They added weapons to him. He didn't have Adrian Peterson last year. They got Adrian Peterson back. That's almost like adding a weapon in a way. We discarded ourselves of Greg Jennings, while an awesome person and a very good receiver,